Good evening, everybody. Week 6 of discussion, and this week we watched Anne Curzan's What Makes a Word Real podcast. Questions for this week are: what from Curzan's TED Talk surprised you, and what might Curzan's ideas inform the way you think about your writing, whether at home, work, or school? So, quick reflection on what makes a word real is from her description, not definitive. So I will say that what makes a word real, according to her TED Talk, or what I took from it, was the usage of the word and how often we use it creates frequency in seeing it. And I think that what makes a real word isn't necessarily in the dictionary, which she talks about. She says that dictionaries are used as a good guide or reference for the most appropriate way to use a word, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that is the only real words that are out there. She says words are not human and they're not timeless. So our language evolves and changes, and so that is kind of what she's referring to when she's talking about what makes a word real. Is not necessarily that it shows up in a dictionary, but instead that it can be something we use or see repeated in language. She gave a few examples, which she said hangry. Gosh, I've used that one a million times because I am an individual who gets very hangry. And I loved the word adorkable. Totally adorable. And tweet, hashtag, those are some examples of words that I could recognize as words that weren't around back in the day that are probably converted to known words these days. Less known words that she mentioned, at least for me, was referring to the word Chad, which is, I had to Google an example of referring to an alpha male. And then even acronyms like LOL is popular, and YOLO are popular examples of sort of acronyms that have become real word usage in our vocabulary. And WMD was one I was less familiar with, thankfully, but it is a real world we are dealing with, which stands for weapons of mass destruction. So I think these are all examples of words that maybe we use now, but we didn't use in the past. And that's just sort of her way of reflecting that words change over time. And those are some current ones that are being used today. I would say that the application to writing is to listen to what others are saying in writing. And she uses the example to not get too hung up on the words themselves as long as they make sense, which I think is very applicable. So I think if you're writing a piece that can utilize maybe some of those slang words, or it's appropriate in the context of writing, I think it's okay as long as it makes sense. And I think often writing is used as a robust and colorful and creative way to sort of tell a story. And writing is a beautiful way to do that. It's a way of expressing what we're thinking, creating visuals. And I think it's been seen in at least the books that I read, where sometimes there are made up words based on the story that they're trying to tell, and it works. So all things are possible. So I think what makes a word real is not necessarily the dictionary. Again, it's just how you utilize the word, and this can be very applicable to writing. Parts of the fun with words, as my final recap, is to remember that words are always changing. Part of language is to evolve. And I think she even mentions how people or linguistics or, English professors or historians, they have changed their perception of what's been acceptable and unacceptable. And so her reminder was just not to be bothered by it. And I think that's a great reflection. So going forth, when you're writing, just make sure that your context is appropriate and have some fun.